Hi, good morning and good afternoon to everybody, whichever the location and the time zone. We are delighted to invite everybody for the Procure P2P, the webinar from DM World and Procure Tiger. And we are the leading ICT solutions company based in UAE. And it's our journey that along with the Procure Tiger, it's also one of the great solutions for the procurement automation and transformation. We have a very excellent panelist on this over here. So you will get a lot of input and then experience from this panel members. So they have huge experience come along with that. So this will be a great webinar. Without delaying any time, I would like to Karthika to take over and start the webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Pramod. Hello, everyone. This is Karthika. And on behalf of Procure Tiger and DM World, we warmly welcome one and all present here. Good morning and good afternoon, depending upon from where you are dialing. We are excited to see professionals joining us from across the globe, and we really appreciate you for sparing your precious time today. It's 21st century, right? And we have seen ERPs are found in almost every organization. Usually drawing the eyes of finance and IT, they are widely used to connect and manage data from multiple business units. For sure, ERP does sound like one-stop shop for all the business data. However, the harsh reality is that ERPs are not designed for procurement. Procurement is a complex function that requires a lot of flexibility, adaptability, and collaboration. At the end of the day, ERP's capabilities simply just do not fit in and leave a lot to be desired. This paves the way for a procure-to-pay suite, which can be a game changer for organization, as it adds in immense value to procurement operations by automating and optimizing it. Today, we will be seeing procurement domain experts share their first-hand experience, knowledge, and insights on how a robust procure-to-pay suite can radically transform the procurement function while working alongside an ERP. So before we begin, some useful tips to get the best of the webinar. I hope you guys are logged in and see my screen, but if you are unable to do so, I would request you to just refresh your page and do the same whenever the need arises. Also, if you face any kind of issue during the webinar, I request you to please put it in your chat box so that our team will be responding accordingly. A wired handset is recommended for a better experience. Download the handout shared at the end of the webinar. During the session, we will be having audience poll, which you can locate on right of your screen. These polls will be open for a short duration, so we request you to please cast your vote. Here's the webinar flow. First, we would be having a panel discussion round. It would be super exciting as we hear the views, thoughts, and insights from a distinguished panelist. Second, we would be having poll section so that you can cast your votes and share your opinions. Third round would be a QA round. Our panelists in total carry an experience of decades. So it is a great opportunity for all the participants to seek the views, insights by asking them questions. You can post your questions in the question section, which would be attended by us at the third round. Now, I would like to invite our esteemed panelists onto the stage. All of them who carry a wealth of experience, procurement experience with them, and a phenomenal track record. First, I would like to invite Mr. Ali Siddhar, who is a regular speaker and a panelist in many international conferences, forums, and summits that cover the procurement and supply chain in Middle East. With 24 years of rich professional experience, Mr. Ali has enormous procurement certifications to his name. We gladly welcome you, sir, and we can't wait to hear you out.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Karthika. Good morning, good afternoon, all depends on your location. I'm happy that I'm here with you to share my knowledge and after all, hear your questions and answer it. Thank you very much for joining.
Now, I would like to invite Mr. Gaurav Mittal, who is Head of Central Buying Organization at Godrej Agrovet Limited. Mr. Gaurav is an accomplished professional with double-decade experience who has worked in multiple domains across spectrum of industries and has led many business process transformation and cost optimization projects having technology as the backbone. Welcome, Gaurav, sir.
Thank you, Kartika. Yeah, thank you, Kartika, and thank you to Procure-to-Pay team to give this opportunity to speak on this forum. And I hope everybody is doing safe, everybody is keeping well across the globe or wherever they are. And look forward to hearing from the expert panelists and learn from the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Srinivas Kumar. Mr. Kumar is a Chief Operating Officer at Templegate Technologies. Mr. Kumar carries with him a tremendously rich working experience of 24 years at well-renowned organizations like Incentia, Oracle, Infor, and SAP. Welcome, sir. We are glad to have you here.
Thank you so much, Kartika. Good afternoon, everybody. I am so keen to learn from all of you, and thanks for this opportunity to Procure-to-Pay. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Last but not the least, I would like to invite Mr. Siddhar Das, who is Chief Procurement at Tata Steel Downstream Products Limited. Mr. Siddhar Das carries with him a highly rich and versatile career spanning with over 30+ years at Tata Group. He has multiple feathers in his cap, having received enormous awards in his tenure. Welcome, Siddhar, sir, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Kartika. It was really nice hearing all of you and all these stalwarts of procurement. I'm also looking forward to many learnings by myself, and also wish the webinar a very success and very enriching experience for all the participants. Good morning and good afternoon, as you rightly said. Thank you.
Great. Now, I would like to thank all the panelists for joining us today, and we believe the insights that would be shared by you all would be, your wealth of experience and would be matchless for all of us. So, audience, now fasten your seatbelts and get ready for the webinar. The exciting time is here. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Bhumisha, who would be taking and leading us further into the session.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Kartika, for this wonderful introduction of all our panelists. I once again welcome all our speakers and audiences. We are honored to have you as a part of today's webinar, Procure-to-Pay Value Beyond ERP. Moving further, considering the topic Procure-to-Pay Value Beyond ERP, we have specifically curated a few questions where we request our esteemed speakers to please share their insights based on their experiences. I'll move ahead with the questions now. So to start with, how do you identify the adequacy of ERP when it comes to procurement? Now, if I have to put this question in other ways, I would say, how do we identify the gaps in ERP as you feel the need for a procure-to-pay suite? I would request Mr. Ali to, share some insights or throw some light on this question. Mr. Ali, all to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Actually, to start with the ERP system, it's a system that has been designed to, let's say, be like a pool for all the data that related to the organization, different functions. And mainly when they design this, let's say, system, the focus will be, depends on that industry or organization. The focus will be either on the operational side or on the financial side. And you will find that some ERP systems are much better when it comes to operation, and others, they are much better when it comes to financial. It's known that the most popular ERP systems are SAP and Oracle. So from my experience and working with the different companies, I find that the SAP is more into operations, into projects, and into, let's say, workshops and such things. And the Oracle, it's more into financial and such kind of stuff, because you'll find most of the banks, they will have Oracle, but most of the companies that they have workshops and operations and multiple projects, they may prefer to have SAP. However, whatever the ERP system you are implementing, when it's come to procurement, I always find that there is a lot of gaps, because you may have they will have a module for everything you may need, but that module is just of a sake connecting that function with the let's say holistic database of the company, and not in the sake that to serve that function when it's come, for example, to procurement or even HR. So you'll find that there is some gaps, some limitations, and if you need to do something that address the procurement needs, you have to go through development, and it will be something costly. It will take time and money, and you will not get what you are looking for as a procurement professional. It's still, there will be some limitations. One of these things, for example, that what I was experienced in the companies I work with, that some of these modules, they maybe allow you to make RFQ, but you have to, let's say, share it through email. There is no automation through that. Some of them, it may not allow you to do so, and if it allow you to do so, you need to approach the developer or the system owners, so they have to add other things or do some tweaks here and there to make it let's say fit. Also managing the supplier data, it's not that something easy, and you will not find the proper categories that you can put your vendors under, because it was not designed for procurement. And categorization, usually when it's come to supply chain, it's something unique to procurement. Exactly. Finance, they don't need categories, they just need the full details of that company or that business, their legal details, their banking details, and whatever, but they don't care in which industry they are, because at the end of the day, there is an invoice. It will come and they will make double check and pay for that company, whatever the service it's providing to that organization. So this always, make me in, let's say, a debate or in a talk with the management about that we have to come into bringing into the organization, let's say, a specialized system. And I also initiate a project to make such kind of initiatives. Unfortunately, since the company are investing in the ERP, and since the ERP are supported by, let's say, maybe the operations or the financial or the finance, or so you'll find barriers into bringing that projects in, and you need to put a tremendous effort to show them the added value from the P2P suite, and to show them that there will not be any disturbance to the business. It can be smoothly integrated. There is a lot of gateways that we can integrate such kind of suites, and these suites, they designed themselves to be able to talk with the existing ERP systems. But it's like exhausting a process when it's come to let's say procurement leaders to bring in let's say P2P suite. It's very exhausting process, and not all the time you will come into a success, because there will be some people defending the ERP especially the IT side, and they will claim that no, whatever you need, we can fix it and we can do it. We can make the right development. So I don't want to take much time, but in brief, yani, this is from my experience what I noticed through the organization I worked with. So you know, it's over to you. Yeah.
Sir, I completely agree, Mr. Ali, what you said, that at times it becomes very difficult to, help companies understand the distinguish between ERP, what a value addition a ERP is bringing on table, and what value addition a P2P is bringing. I definitely agree with you. I would also request Mr. Siddhar Das to add some more information or some more thoughts on this, that, how do we identify the adequacy of an ERP? And how do we understand the need of a procure-to-pay solution? Mr. Siddharth, over to you. Mr. Siddharth, we are unable to hear you. I believe you might be on mute.
Sorry.
Yes, now we can
I'm
hear
sorry.
you.
I mean, it's just for it. Okay. Yeah. So thank you, Kartika. This is a very, very important question. And, the moment we're trying to, first of all, these two are not comparable. ERP is the full system which cuts across the organization, as Mr. Ali was also saying that some SAP might concentrate on, maybe finance, Oracle might concentrate on something else, but ultimately it's a solution which cuts across the organization, which doesn't take care of the P2P, purely the P2P part of it, where the procurement professionals are, the existence of the procurement professionals matter, because what is our KPI, what are our decision-making systems, everything that we, the detailed plan of procurement, the detailed KPIs of procurement, how do you do it? So no, ERP, in fact, goes to that level to satisfy all your needs.
Correct.
So what are those needs? Your needs can be your decision matrix, the key performance indicators. It can be, let's say, what is that value that you are bringing to the table? The value that you are bringing to the table can be in terms of, let's say, your, contribution to the EBITDA. So how do you contribute to the EBITDA? So there are two things. One is at the transactional level, one it has the management information system level. So while ERP has some to some extent it can help you to fast backward of your past. That means what has been done on a particular PR, what kind of material you have purchased, etc. But if you want to fast forward your present, in the sense that your decision matrix has to be very fast, your visibility, your trackability, everything has to be absolute in your fingertips, then you can't just depend on ERP, SAP, or Oracle, whatever. It's not going to tell you. Your entire sourcing, your vendor management, those are not managed in any ERP for that matter. So only solution. So let's say vendor management is one, your decision matrix is one, your savings, if you want to track. So how do you do that? You cannot do in a SAP or in an Oracle. You cannot have a savings to the table. Like I saved, let's say, okay, let me also give you some practical figures of my company, TSDPL. When okay, I'll come to that later on. Before that, the basic question that we're talking about, why companies need P2P. Having said this, I'm also asking in other way that if P2P is not required, then why so many wonderful P2P solutions are in the market? So definitely there is a need.
Exactly.
That goes without saying. It's there. But now we're trying to justify that why there is a need. No doubt experts will talk about that. Now, as far as TSDPL is concerned, for example, we had used the P2P suite for our a very simple lot of buy, something around I think 60 crores, and the value which has come to the table because of the P2P, because of various engines of P2P that we've used, has come to the tune of 3.5 crores per annum continuously for last 3 years. So this is just a kind of example of P2P. Then of course your various kind of risks, your you manage your audit tracking, you can manage so well. So finally, in one line, I can say that you manage your ERP, along with P2P, not ERP and P2P separately, but if they come with each other, they complement with each other, they talk to each other fairly well, then you get the benefit to the table wonderfully. Over to you. Thanks.
Very nicely said, Mr. Siddhar. And this brings me to a new question. The next question: how a procure-to-pay solution and an ERP can not only coexist but thrive together? So as Mr. Siddharth was focusing on that, not only ERP and procure-to-pay working individually, but simultaneously, they can actually thrive together. So I would request Mr. Kumar to throw some insight on this, that, what are his thoughts on how can an ERP and a procure-to-pay solution thrive together? Mr. Kumar, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Bhumisha. Thank you very much for this question. So I'll just add a perspective to what Mr. Ali and Siddharth said. In fact, ERP as a term was coined by Gartner somewhere in the 90s. Enterprise resource planning. And it's actually a misnomer. In fact, it's a lot of applications put together, which works together. And as like Ali also said, it's more of finance and fundamentally manufacturing. Now, what happens is, like Karthika, when she introduced today, is a digital world. When we talk about ERP is inward looking. ERP is managing your operations as far as the organization is concerned. But if you look at the digital aspect of this current world, what is happening is that organizations and companies are opening up to the external world. Now, when you're opening up to the external world, we are actually discussing about a network. Now, when we talk about network, it is all about people who are connected to an organization. It could be suppliers, it could be customers, it could be your employees, your external agencies whom you would want to network with, because eventually companies cannot exist or really succeed on its own in terms of its own operations. It has to depend upon the network of people who are working with them in collaboration. So the question is so pertinent that ERP and P2P, which is primarily a portal which connects suppliers and the organization, is actually an extension of an organization. So I would even add a word instead of thriving. I would say that this is a must, or it's an absolute necessity that we have P2P solution, which is just one extension or a one additional network over above the ERP to the supplier world.
Exactly.
So when this happens, when this network happens, when this collaboration happens in this digital world, what essentially we are saying is that we are partnering with our suppliers. When we are partnering with our suppliers, like Siddharth also mentioned, there's a huge amount of savings for the organization. It's a visibility to the suppliers. It's about compliance. Siddharth also mentioned about audit, which is a very important part. What happens is when we talk about ERP or even the network, is essentially a situation wherein it's all people dependent. The minute you extend this network to the external world, what you're doing is you're bringing process dependency. So that's another aspect to it. Of course, savings, compliance, audit. Beyond that, what we're talking about is efficiency. So as I mentioned earlier, ERP is more of inward looking and a P2P solution is outward looking, so that this particular collaboration can actually help not into thriving alone, but I would say it's an absolute necessity, Bhumisha. That's my perspective towards P2P solution importance.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. This was actually a wonderful discussion we had on how does ERP and P2P thrive together. I would also request Mr. Gaurav Mittal to share some insight on what are his opinions or what does he feel about a procure-to-pay solution and ERP coexisting and thriving together in an organization. So, Mr. Gaurav, over to you.
Thank you. So before I just share my perspective, I'll just tell you what we do in Godrej Agrovet. We are basically a large agri conglomerate. So, we buy almost 1.6 million tons of agri commodities from India and across the globe. So whatever perspective and experiences I'll share will have some shades of what we do and what we have done over last 1.5 decades over here. So we as a Godrej, we are, very early adopter of technology. So we had ERP solution almost for 2.5 to 3 decades with us, or different types. We evolved and we kept on changing. So when we talk in terms of procurement function, every time there was a change or there was any need of the business organization, we tweaked some of the functionalities, developed some of the reports, and then tried to make it fit to the purchasing function. But what started happening almost 7 to 8 years back, and if the people, those who have some familiarity of what is happening in agri space, that there was a very fast evolution of the technology. There were exchanges become very mature, there were hedging mechanisms. The government of India itself is doing a lot of investment in agri technology. So just taking the point from Mr. Kumar forward of this internal and external concept, we also felt absolutely the same thing, that we were becoming very internally efficient by using the ERP packages. But we were somewhere optimal in aligning and evolving together with the external work, be it our supplier, be it the market. Post GST, we had one nation, one market across the nation. So these are the things which made us believe that we need an expert who can do the best job for the procurement function. And then we brought in the P2P function. And that's where we started feeling this transformation of collaboration, better collaboration with our vendors, better visibility of operations. The only point that I feel is that in our experience, it is like when these two functions integrate with each other efficiently, I think we get the best of the two worlds. Independently ERP or independently P2P suite may still give some the results which are not to the maximum, but when these are integrated very cautiously with selective functionality, I think we get the very great results out of that. So and what we also we realize over a period of time, somehow the procurement is generally being considered as a science, and when these two functions we started marrying technology, the procurement became a combination of art and science together. You started understanding the external world better. You started understanding the psychology that make your negotiation also very efficient. So I think these were some of the experience that we believe that if we have to evolve and grow together, these things have to go parallelly. While the expert does the job best in terms of P2P suite, but ERP remains the backbone and become a guiding force and a key enabler for the business in an integrated manner across functions. So that's my experience with these two packages.
Thank you, Mr. Gaurav. We really enjoyed whatever you shared with us. Moving ahead to the next question. Now comes the main point where everyone will actually be very much interested. Is it worth investing in a Procure-to-Pay suite? What benefits specifically can one expect after implementing Procure-to-Pay? So we understand that when technology comes into picture, there's some amount of investment that every company has to do, right? When there comes the point of investment to be done, every stakeholder, they want to know what benefits can be expected out of the investment done in a Procure-to-Pay suite. So I would again request Mr. Siddhar to throw some lights on, is it worth investing in a Procure-to-Pay suite? As you already, in your earlier discussion, as you already said that you were running a project for 60 crores and the savings you could get were pretty much, it is a humongous amount. 60 crores are saving from 3.5 crores. So in any ways, it is suggesting and signifying that yes, it is worth investing. But we would request you to throw some more examples, some more lights on this, and what benefits specifically, tangible or intangible, did you see after investing or implementing into a Procure-to-Pay suite? Mr. Siddharth, over to you. Mr. Siddharth, you are on mute. I would request you to please unmute yourself, please.
I think this is a problem every time. Okay, anyway. Okay, nevertheless. So yeah, very important and very pertinent question. Before investing into P2P, companies try or corporates try to find out that what is an ROI. For me straight away, because we have experienced it, so straight away I can say yes. But this yes would not just justify, in terms of the logic that what kind of benefits it has given. So okay, let us try to enumerate what are the benefits actually it has given to me. So let me tell something about my company so that people understand that what benefits or what kind of benefits it has given. So Tata Steel Downstream Products Limited, before which I was in Tata Steel. So here the main contracts are in terms of external processing agents, or what we call the steel processing centers. So we outsource this. So that run into those are basically services which run into something around 25 crores per year kind of services across India. Transportation is another area which again runs into to the tune of something around 25 crores. So these are the two areas where traditionally even Tartessy law has also failed, saying that transportation is an area. It's a quite an, of course, now it has been quite in India. It has become organized, but still you find transportation to be little in the unorganized sector. So there, so there the use of P2P and the various engines, so to say, let's say reverse auction or things like that, was a challenge. But we have used it continuously, and for last 3 years we are using it to each and every commodity on the services. So neither on the commodity side we have left it, nor on the services side. So on the big ticket items we have fully used the P2P suite as well as its various functions. And as I was telling you, that we got the benefit specifically on transportation and external processing services. And just for the interesting part is that although your P2P suite at the same time helps you for various other things, like there is a savings, there is a visibility, there is an auditability, there is a vendor management, transactional efficiency, effectiveness. Apart from all this, sometimes it also does a kind of a nuisance management as well. I mean, I would like to put it this way as well, not much beyond that. People can understand many there are areas where we cannot do it straight away, whereas if you put a platform, then many of such things becomes really normalized. The catalyzations, the nuisance factors, many such things are also normalized. That is also a big learning for us, because we're not able to handle the wood vendors, so to say, which again is a kind of having different kind of management which it requires. Whereas when it comes to an equal platform, then it becomes easy to handle. So these are some of the benefits in a P2P ROI perspective. I have given already the financial part. I've also given the subtler part of it. There are softer benefits as well, apart from the pure dollar or rupees, whatever it is.
Correct.
That in any case is coming, but without that, also on a softer side, there are a lot of benefits. People have, first of all, people have a like if you get out, because your RFQ management, so to say, getting the quotes and all those things are not happening in any ERP. So in any case, you have to depend on some P2P suite which gives you the entire quotation or the offer handling process. So once it brings transparency, then you have a long-term benefit. Yeah, you have a long-term benefit of trust, and which is very important for the stakeholders, for the various kind of stakeholders, which otherwise they can always point out, saying that okay, your process perhaps is not so professional or whatever. Of course, I won't term ethical, because everything is 100% ethical in Tata Steel. But yes, it also gives that kind of a flavor as well, that yes, the process is perfect, the process is ethical, process is transparent. That is also a softer benefit, which also takes care and ensures that your vendor base, which you depend and count on for your long-term relationship and for the business to run, they stay with you. That's another thing. I stop at this, and over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Siddhar. So I understand that implementing a procure-to-pay is definitely worth investing. Giving the examples you have shown, it has given you tangible savings, it has given you ROI as well as intangible savings, where it is managing your partner relationship, avoiding the nuisances as well. Thank you, sir, for your inputs. I would also request Mr. Gaurav Mittal to share some insights or throw some light based on the experience. What are their thoughts on if it is worth investing procure-to-pay, and what benefits one can reap out of it? Over to you, Mr. Gaurav.
See, my belief is that every such investment is not just a change of the process or just bringing in a new software. It's a change of the culture, and it's a change of the environment in which you operate, both internally as well as externally. So when you make such investment, if there is not a business philosophy around it, then it will become just a sophisticated software, right?
Correct.
So if I talk about myself, or if I talk about Godrej Agrovet, there were two key principles that we had decided when we invested in this. See, being Godrej, there are many people, those who have desired to deal with us. We are a big conglomerates having presence all across India. But whether that desire of doing business is also, meaning reflecting ease of doing business. So one of the first essence was that everybody who is interacting with us, either in terms of buying or selling, they should feel that they are associated with the company with which they can be proud of having some kind of business transaction. So that was the one thing. And as markets integrated, and then other events happened over last 5-6 years, the people, we became one market across India. That was one thing. Second thing was that when I implement such technology, it should ease some kind of workload from my team members also. We talk about process efficiency, we talk about transparency. That is, I think we would always expect, but I think the people should be able to shed some load on some kind of transactional stuff and focus more on the research part or the study part or the interaction part with the vendor. So these were the two things, I think, which we had very clearly in our mind when we started, thinking about the P2P suite. Now I'll give you some of the very, very niche examples of the commodity market where we, gained as well as we started reaping benefits quite early. First thing was, we have a regional setup. We have regional buyers. Although we are a centralized organization, but still being agri-commodity, you have to be nearer to the producing center. So when we put any such system in place, the internal competition, because 2 or 3 buyers talking to one vendor in one geography, you start creating an internal competition. As soon as you started bringing, so suppose if I talk about an auction, if I launched one auction for 3 facilities, immediately only one person interacting. It's a technology, but it is just replacing a person. So technology started interacting, and you somehow able to avoid the internal competition. Second thing in commodity markets, it's how do you decode the bullish and bearish trends? Because in commodity market, it's the timing is the essence. So when you see that the number of participants are increasing, when you see the number of participants are decreasing, or the number of bids or the quantum at which they are bidding, you are able to decode in which direction market may unfold tomorrow or day after. So these were some of the trends which we were able to very clearly identify when we saw, when we launched this program and we followed it up, and then we studied the data for, after having an experience of 6 to 7 months. So this was another benefit which we got. Third thing was that vendor knew that, we just did not have it a pre-transaction suite. We extended it to post-transaction also. Although, vendor are in need of a lot of information from buying team. So we extended its usage to the post-transaction world. Their follow-up, their information needs, as say for example, when GST was implemented, there were a lot of documentation, new formats, new reports. So I think by doing that, we were able to give them all these things in one place. Their follow-up time, their inconvenience to get all the details, I think that reduced significantly. And that's where we created a sense of convenience as well as attachment in the whole ecosystem, that okay, technology is the way of life. At the same time, when we talk about other benefits that any technology can give to any organization. So these were some of the experiences that we had.
Thank you, Mr. Gaurav. This was really very insightful, you sharing your real-time experience. Let me move ahead to the last question. When we talk about audit and compliances, right, when it comes to procurement, wherever money is flowing in and out, audit compliances plays a very, very important role. So my next question is just around it. What about the audit compliance risk while managing the processes in an ERP, and how a procure-to-pay can be a game changer? So I would request Mr. Ali to throw some light on this. That's what are your insights or what would you like to suggest that how are the audit and compliance risk being managed in an ERP, and how is a procure-to-pay here being a game changer? Over to you, Mr. Ali.
Thank you. Actually, I will phrase my answer by sharing a story. During my career life, I has been invited by one company or hunted by one company to, let's say, fix their procurement function since they have a non-compliance report from external auditors. So I joined that organization, and with the team there, we did a great job. We, let's say, reinvent all the policies and procedures, and we come out with a procurement manual that is, having inside of it all what's required for the organization to run the procurement function in a proper way, and in a way that it addresses all the findings of the auditors. And we end up that the next audit, we was having like 32 findings that time when I was brought in the organization. It's end up with, let's say, next audit, it's become like 8. But all the 8 findings, it was system-related things, which, because we have there an ERP system was implemented, which I was not able with my team to be able to sort it out, because we give our suggestions how to be done. It's more depends on the authentications and multiple functions of people and the conflict of interest and such kind of things, or conflict in the functionalities. Or although we address it to the the management and to the IT, but still, since the ARB by itself, it was not designed for procurement, as we said before, and it's also a rigid system, and it's not something that you can change and adapt, and going through any changing or any optimization, you have to go through a long process, which also take by nature a long time to be approved, because it will be attached with some investments, because the system, let's say, integrator will not do things for you free. So, and sometimes it's a big amount of money. So what I want to say that when it's come to compliance, I was handicapped with these points, and still I have limited action. I cannot do anything regarding to it, but still it's a points on procurement, because it's related to managing the procurement function. So this is, let's say, something from the real life I'm sharing with you. So for sure there is an issue, and and some of these findings, by the way, it was like high risk. They put it the auditors. So you will find something related to the compliance, which is a high risk when it's come to the ERP. If you want to run your procurement only using the ERP without looking to other, let's say, solution that is designed for procurement from Procure-to-Pay. So, and if you will have the Procure-to-Pay, for sure you can address all of these, because the way the technology providers like you and others design these systems, it's allow us to feed all the data inside that system, even to feed the system with the, let's say, the policies, the codes that we need to, let's say, manage the function through it, and put the boundaries that we want to put, what can be done, what cannot, these restrictions, whatever. So the system itself will help you when you come into evaluating a contract or a quotation or whatever, or making, let's say, a comparison. The system itself will filter things and bring you to that compliance, because you already defined your borders, you defined what the don'ts and does, and it will help you a lot in that, let's say, compliance journey. And you even if you find some points you may not be aware of, and an external auditor come and check behind you and find some, let's say, gaps, you can easily fix it when you have a P2P suit. While with the ERP, based on my experience and on the story I shared, it's something we couldn't address. And I believe I left that company until even when I left them, still that problem's there. And I believe it's still there till this moment I'm talking with you, because they insist to having this ERP and they don't want to invest in a B2B solutions. Why? Because they invest a lot in that ERP.
Yeah.
Which make it for them unlogic to invest again in doing, or bringing something to integrate with what they already spend millions on it. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So what I understand is that Procure-to-Pay is way more flexible with less limitations, unlike ERP, which is making audit compliance risk more manageable in a P2P solution. Thank you, sir, for your insight. I would also raise this question to Mr. Kumar. So, Mr. Kumar, what are your thoughts on audit compliance risk while managing the processes in an ERP? And how can a Procure-to-Pay be a game changer? I would, this is over to you, sir. We'd like to hear inputs on this. Sir, I'm sorry, you are on mute. I would request you to please unmute yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Bhumika. Thanks for the question. So I mean, my perspective again, I had mentioned earlier about the network world, where the digital transformation is happening. Three perspectives. One is as companies are growing larger and larger, the size and the volume of data is increasing tremendously. Mm-hmm. Despite having enterprise application, a lot of Excel sheets are still floating around.
100%.
A single window, let's say like Procure-Tiger or a single P2P solution through which that could be the entire data flowing through for a procurement process, which can be tracked, ideally tracked. And compliance comes in, especially when there's a huge volume of data. Now, who's bought what? Why did they buy it? Was it bought correctly? Was the spend justified? Was it budgeted? Or is it out of budget? Not out of budget? So a Procure-to-Pay solution primarily captures this because it's kind of a bridge between the company and the global supply network. That's one part of it. Mm-hmm. The part of it is, see, organizations, I mean, today companies like Godrej and Tata Steel, they're also global companies. Today, companies are no more restricted to just a small geography called India. I mean, it's a big geography though. So now as companies are going global, I mean, we know a few years back, GDPR was implemented by the European Union. Mm-hmm. Now, can we actually, there will be a lot of such compliances or a lot of such legislations across the globe wherein there needs to be some kind of a protection on data itself. Mm-hmm. Now, as going out of the organization or we are bringing in a lot of data from suppliers, these mm-hmm. compliances to be also tracked. There has to be some kind of a monitoring mechanism. This is one important. It's not only the internal compliances in terms of audit as to who spend and what spend, but also about what is being done by suppliers. Like, for example, I know that many companies or importers of goods from Europe want to make sure that the supplier from India or somewhere else is not using, let's say, child labor, for example. Mm. So how do you know or how do you manage your suppliers wherein he keeps on giving you or updating through a portal or through a P2P solution that he's compliant over not only such legislations on child labor, or it could be any other local health or climatic legislation. So that's one part of the compliance part. Another thing is the supplier risk itself. Now, for example, what we have seen in the last 2 years has been unprecedented. Yes. We have all gone online. Probably we would have done this session in a large conference room or somewhere else, but we're doing this online today. Because what has happened is digital transformation has also helped us to do this kind of networking. Now, this kind of unprecedented times, we are talking about supplier risk itself as a subject. Wherein do we have the right kind of suppliers who can supply us material at the right time? Because suppliers are also the backbone of what an organization manufactures. Now,
Yes.
a P2P solution primarily plays a very important role in identifying the performance of suppliers, identifying risk of from a specific type of suppliers, or it could be anything related to having alternative suppliers. So a P2P also extends your network to search and reach out to as many alternative suppliers, and you can also source them globally, locally, from anywhere. So a solution is a very large extension to your enterprise application, and it plays a very important role not only in internal compliance and audit, but also protecting the organization from supplier related risk by performance, Monisha.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. So what we understand here is that a procure-to-pay solution is giving you a 360-degree view of your data, of your supplier, of everything happening in a solution, right? Which is making the audit compliance risk more manageable compared to the limitations that comes with an ERP solution. Thank you,
That's
Mr.
right.
Kumar, for your insights. Thank you so much. Thank you all the panelists. So currently we are done with the question answer round right now, but we are going to run a poll for all the audiences. So I would request everyone to please stick around. I'll be running some polls right now. And we would also request the audiences to share some questions. If they have any queries, we can ask all the panelists to address them right now. So we are starting the poll. I request all the panelists to please mute themselves and off their video cameras.
I was just checking out.
We are running polls. I would request all the audiences to please help us with the polls. Please submit your inputs. Thank you. Meanwhile, we run the polls. I would request the audiences, we have some handouts for you. You may please take access of the handout section and download them. So we have started with another poll. Request all the audiences to please submit their inputs. We have gone live with the third poll. Request all the audiences to please submit their inputs. Thank you. Also request you to please download the handouts. We are live with the last poll. Thank you. Thank you for casting your votes. I have an announcement to be made. So Procure-Tiger has set up a real-time Procure-to-Pay demonstration on 16 September, 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. UAE time. Request you all to please join to get an in-depth knowledge on the Procure-to-Pay processes and the real-time product demo. Thank you. Now, I would be taking the questions that we have been shared by the audiences. Considering the time, the shortage of time, I'll be able to only take 2 questions. And this question is open to all the panelists. Please feel free to pick an answer. Going ahead with the first question. Why change in mindset is the key to change management? So the first question that we have received from the audiences is, why change in mindset is the key to change management? Please let me know from the panelists who would be, who would like to answer this question.
Yes, actually, I'll phrase it in this way. The changing the mindset is the key for changing anything, because the mankind, actions, it's all based on its mindset. How you set your mind, how you perceive things, how you look to, let's say, the positive side and negative side of the things, it will affect your behavior. So it's all about the mindset. So if the management believe that ERP is the best solution for their business, so you need to change that mindset that yes, it's important for their business, but still there is niches in your business which is also very important to the growth of your business. It's very important to add value to your bottom line. But since the technology has evolved, there is specific solutions for these niches that you should implement if you want to get better results. So without changing that mindset related to the technology, related to what can be taken out of it, what's the limitations we have, what's how much that technology that the company is investing in is useful to that business or not. Without changing that mindset, you will just speaking loudly, and your voice will go freely in the air. So and as I said, and start my answer, that changing mindset is key for anything that you want to do it in your life, either in your personal life or in your career life. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. Very rightly said that the key to anything, any change to be made is going to start from the mind. Do we have Mr. Gaurav or Mr. Kumar who would like to share their insights on this? Yes,
Yeah,
Mr. Gaurav.
so what I would like to say, see, there is a particular, when you do something or what you are doing currently, this might be having a legacy of 4 years, 5 years, or 10 years, you don't know. So you have evolved, you have learned something. But when you do something new, you have to unlearn whatever you have learned. And that unlearning the past and learning the new thing, that is the whole thing what is required. And once you start believing that it can happen, there will be challenges. People have to be patient about the approach, including the managers. You just can't tell your subordinate that you are not putting enough effort. At the same time, to the suppliers also, you have to convince that this is in the mutual benefit of organization and the entire ecosystem. So I think once you change everything, unlearn and learn new things, I think the magic will happen. That's my take on this.
Definitely, so very well said. Mr. Kumar, do you have any inputs on this? The change in mind is the key to any change management?
Sure, Bhumisha. So at the end of the day, it's all about people. I mean, we can bring in as much technology we want, but the technology has to be driven by people.
Correct.
Adoption of technology is again people. So a mindset change or any technology which has to be implemented has to go through a process of what I would say change management in an organization. If you're following a specific type of process, maybe you need to adopt best practices, or you may need to adopt next level practices. And that's where P2P makes a huge difference or a dent in change management. So it's very critical for anything to succeed. We need to change. We need to adopt new practices, and that's where change management really impacts such an adoption.
Thank you, sir. I believe the question that has been answered by all the
Kartika, I can hear you just now. Kartika.
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is Siddhar here. I can hear you. Yeah, I can. I have joined through mobile, so maybe I can take some question if required. But yes, perhaps the video is not on. Thanks.
That's fine, sir. So we would like to have some inputs from your end also, that what are your thoughts at why change in mindset is the key to change management? What would you say about this, sir?
So can you repeat, because little odd. Can you just repeat the question, please?
I would surely. Why change in mindset is the key to change management?
Yeah. That's a very important question. In fact, change, man. First of all, there has to be. I mean, the need, the felt need for a change to P2P. The entire webinar was talked about till now, that P2P is a requirement, and that has been justified to various reasons. That there was an ROE we talked about. We talked about visibility. We talked about audit trail. We talked about risk mitigation. So now, having said this and having said that all this is required, and this cannot be met by the existing ERP, it sets the context that a P2P suite is required. Now, question is,
what is in the change management, what is requirement is a top-down approach of the management and a program kind of approach where the P2P can be implemented. But 2-3 things must be kept in mind for each of the organization, because every organization is at a different maturity level of all those things. So one has to prioritize. If the question is about what should be done for a right kind of implementation requirement, not just the change of the psychology I'm talking about, that okay, what are those showstoppers in so-called change in thinking. So I'm not talking about that. I'm only saying that what are the needs for having a implementation, before implementation kind of a scenario. So all these things are to be taken into account before P2P implementation. While all these needs are there and all these needs are well enumerated, but for each organization, which one is so the prioritization of the list must be done in the sense that my top priority is what. I mean, of course, savings is required, auditability is required, risk analysis is required, all that is required. But still, I must prioritize that what I should focus on, and not what the P2P is going to give me, rather than what I need. And based on that, my as is to be converted into the to be scenario.
Correct.
And this is about what to be done for the implementation. Yeah. And as far as why there is a a hesitation, or why there is a kind of so-called impasse or whatever is there, which people are not to be scenario, there can be many reasons to it, in the sense that people might not have really felt the real need of a business where it gives the push and the so-called the fastness and then speed of the process, which is basically on your decision making. So that is perhaps the most important thing, and which in any case is taking shape everywhere, as has been told by all the panelists. Over to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Siddhar. We'll just take one last question. This is a very important question that has come up. One important factor one must consider while evaluating different procure-to-pay suits. Now, as I understand, every one of you has a very fair experience on using a procure-to-pay suit. As per your experience, or based on your experience, what would be that one factor that every person or every organization should keep in mind while evaluating different procure-to-pay suits? Please feel free, all of you, to answer. Mr. Siddhar, Mr. Ali, Mr. Gaurav, and Mr. Kumar.
Actually,
yeah, I'll tell you. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, please carry on.
Okay, I'll just take a part of it. From my point of view, you cannot say that there is a let's say universal factor that I can address now and tell that you have to look to this point, because it's as has been said, it's depend on the needs of that business, and it depends on the industry. It depends on what sort of problems or pains you are in, and you want to sort it out, or you want to solve it. So defining all of this through that process, you will come up with the main factor, or maybe it will be factors that will let you think about that solution or the other. For example, as an example, maybe the auction will be a very good solution for that industry, and for that they should look to let's say a solution that they can provide a good auction, reverse auction platform or solution for that one. So it depends. Yani, sometimes it's your industry, you need to automate more the regular purchase, so you need some suit that can give you a catalog, for example. So any let's say technology or service provider that they don't have in his solution a catalog, it may not. So what I want to say that it depends actually on what's your need, what's your industry, what pains you have, what problems you want to solve. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So you are trying to say that it eventually depends on your business, and then what exactly are you looking? What solution? What is your pain area? What is the bottleneck? Right? Based on that, a procure-to-pay evaluation has to be done. Very rightly said, sir. Mr. Siddharth, I believe you had some inputs to be given. Please take it up from here.
Yeah. Okay, so okay, very rightly said. First of all, while selecting a P2P suit in the market, let's say, I have in fact myself have come across this kind of a dilemma. It is something like, you go to a restaurant and the big menu comes and you are not able to decide. Everything looks so good. So that happens with a P2P suit as well. There are wish list, there are need to have and wish to have and all that. So first of all, the need to haves are something which the organization decides. As I was telling before, that the priority has to be done based on all our requirements. So now, for example, if we are not in the space of government procurement, for example, so I may not be requiring many such scenarios which for my company. So I know my corporate and my company and my policies, my procurement policies, based on that, what are those things that I'm looking at. So I may not be requiring a very detailed various structure of procurement process in the P2P sheet. So some closed bidding, open bidding, that is not required for us. It cannot also happen open bidding with. It cannot also happen okay, so I think I'm okay with the vendors. I mean, I'm sorry.
Hello.
Yeah, I have come back to the computer.
Okay.
Just hold on.
Sure, sir.
Just hold on.
Mr. Siddharth, are you there with us? Hello? Mr. Siddharth? Okay, I believe he's facing some internet issues. I would ask Mr. Kumar or Mr. Gaurav to, if you have any inputs on one factor that could be considered while selecting or while evaluating a procure-to-pay solution. Audiences would really be interested in understanding that you both have good experience on using procure-to-pay solutions. So please, Mr. Kumar, if you could give us some insights. What would be that one factor?
Yeah, so Bhumisha, it's actually a very difficult question. There is no one factor actually. So there are so many other factors, so many factors.
Yes.
The right P2P solution. So first of all, the most important thing begins with evaluation is that you really need one, number one. And as Siddharth was mentioning, it could be what are the core requirements of a particular solution which you want to focus on, or do you want to focus on the bells and whistles? Is it just a specific functionality you're looking for? So one has to be extremely clear as to what is that specific thing in that procure-to-pay that person is focusing on. Based on that, evaluation has to progress rather than looking at all solutions generically. And the last important, or rather last two important point is that how good is the solution for adoption? Because there are so many solutions which are available which claim to be plug and play, but they are not simply customizable or they're configurable. They are not very friendly to users. The user interface, eventually the experience, what we call as the technology experience matters at the end of as to how that particular technology is adopted and make it successful so that the return on investment happens.
Yeah, correct, correct.
So these are the two at least very critical things which I feel are, I mean, there is not one answer, multiple answers. Thanks, Bhumisha.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Very rightly said. Definitely one factor is going.
Between, I'm sorry.
No, sir, we understand, definitely. In fact, I would request you to please continue where you dropped on one factor you would suggest, or various factors
Okay,
you would. Yes, sir.
So I was trying to say, I think some of this has been already articulated by Mr. Kumar. I think he just filled the gap. Thank you so much. But that's what exactly I was trying to say, that, you know, like procurement suite P2P1, P2P2, P2P3, when I was evaluating, I was looking at, so the menu is so good that your wish list goes up, exactly matching to your requirement of your MIS or your, you know, management. Top thing is, as of now, let's say you are into Excelization too much, as I think Mr. Gaurav was saying. Excelization is, or who was saying? Somebody was saying, I think one of the panelists. So if Excelization is too much, then your main focus is perhaps more on the documentation side, in the sense that because it is not there, your auditability is at stake, many things are at stake, you are at that level. Third stage, then your priority could be something else. In that case, your priority could be how the sourcing can be more enhanced. So you have a powerful sourcing, you know, a platform where so there is a vendor interface which you kind of take advantage of to the organization. So that is you know, differs with the P2P suite 1 and 2 and 3, and in the adaptability itself, in the adaptability of P2P, it so happens sometimes that, you know, I come to a question that, okay, in that case, you know, should I leave this or should I leave that? I mean, ERP, whether the PR should carry on with the in the purchase acquisition to carry on with the ERP, or it should come, you know, here. So there can be combinations based on the organization. Okay, my PR can still be in the ERP, my RFQ to negotiations, to, you know, sanctions, all those MIS can be in my, you know, P2P suite, so that the intrinsic value of, you know, ERP stands, which in any case you get the benefit, and also the speed and the entire, you know, documentation flow, the advantage you have with the P2P. So both you have together. I think that's how it is, based on while you are selecting a particular P2P suite, and how quickly you can adapt that.
Exactly.
And easily with your system.
True, the adoption has to be as simple as possible, because there's also a change management involved in it. Rightly said, Mr. Siddhar. Thank you so much. Mr. Gaurav, would you like to add something to Mr. Ali, Kumar, and Siddharth?
Yes, so although most of the broad headlines have been covered, I'll just share 2 points from the experience. I think it will be, these are practical experiences that we have. First thing is that P2P suite will offer what it has to offer. The onus is on the procurement organization also to decide what do they need. So they have, we do a lot of brainstorming in understanding what do we need now, and to develop some kind of trends for future. So that your scalability and your fitment to the business in future, you know, is perfect. So that is one thing. Second thing is that your vendors are your partners in this whole change, right? So instead of just depending on the feedback, we try to take a feed forward kind of approach, where we engage with selected partners, those who have technology orientations and those who have market depth with them. We try to understand from them what is it that is the pain point from the market in general, and then try to incorporate in our need laundry list, and then we try to decide on what do we exactly need from the P2P suite. So these are the 2 things that have worked for us tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for adding a few points to it. We are still having a few questions from the audiences. I think I'll be able to pick one considering the time. Just let me pick the question. Do you think that ERP incorporation limits the comprehensive application usage of Procure-to-Pay solution? Just if anyone could just answer this question, like, do you think that ERP incorporation limits application usage of Procure-to-Pay.
Can somebody type in the chat box?
Sure, I will try to type it. I'll just copy paste it on the chat section. So I have just pasted. I have sent it to everyone.
So if I understand, your question was that does the ERP limits the utility of P2P suite?
Exactly. So we received just one question that do you think that an ERP incorporation limits the comprehensive usage of a procure-to-pay suite? Maybe what they mean to say is, are the functions overlapping each other, or if they are unable to complement? So this is the kind of a question that we have received. I would like someone to just throw some insights based on the experience where they have an ERP and an P2P running parallelly.
So in my experience, no. You have selected an expert to do its job, which is P2P suite for procurement organization. You have been very careful. You have been, very wise enough to select a tool to fulfill a specific organization need. So as long as your selection in terms of your need has been authentic and there, you would not be having any kind of duplicacy between the two, packages. And you will be able to avoid duplicacy of effort, at the same time utilize the efficiencies of both the words simultaneously.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Gaurav. So we'll have to just conclude it here. So this is Bhumisha signing off for now. Thank you so much everyone for your time. I would ask Ms. Kartika to take it up and just conclude the session. Thank you everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Bhumisha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, Tika, and thank you all the panels and participants.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the best and take care.
It was our pleasure being here with you all. Thank you very much.
A big thanks to all the panelist members for sharing such insightful and informative webinar, and we really appreciate the thoughts and wealth of knowledge as that was shared by you. We hope that all the participants too had a great time, and we also appreciate your interest and participation and the questions which we have received. We were running short of time, that's why we couldn't attend all the questions. Sorry from our end. Also, as conveyed earlier, don't miss our 20 minutes webinar where we will be showcasing a procure-to-pay product demo. The link will be shared in the chat section, and also you will be receiving an email too for the same. We hope to have good audience in that session too. We are happy to announce that we would be available at Zytex 2020 at Dubai alongside of Expo. So if you are in and around, do visit us for a cup of coffee. Let's connect and grow together digitally. We are really grateful and thankful for all of you for joining us today, and have a great day ahead. Stay safe and stay healthy. Me signing off, Kartika, as of now for this session, and see you all again soon. Adios.
Thank you for having us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.